But for right now, we have fan-sided editor Josh Hill with us. Julie
Hello,
says
everybody.
hi.
Hi, Julie. Hi. Who else is here?
Everybody. We got Lauren. We got Emma.
Lauren.
We got Biangato Green.
I heard we have
Michael
Emmy-nominated
Douglas.
actor, Oscar winner Michael Douglas, producer of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. God, he must have been like 30 or something then.
Yeah. I think he was. Yeah.
You're very talented, Michael Douglas.
Very talented.
Anyway, we're here to discuss our A Song of Ice and Fire read-through on A
Yep.
Song of Dan and Josh. I've read the books multiple times. You've never read the books. We go through every chapter of the series, just picking it apart, see what makes it tick, and see what we think about it. Today we read Bran 6
Yeah.
from A Game of Thrones, still in the first book in the series, although we are making some nice progress here.
We are.
We're not that far from the end. We'll be done this before we know it.
And you've set up how wonderful the other books are so well that I just
Hey,
can't
it's
wait to dive into
well,
them.
the other plus side is maybe I'm overselling that, and you'll be
true.
really great when you get there. But we still have two more of the core thing to get through, so we'll be
Intellectually
here for a
swindled
while.
by Dan.
Hey, I might have done you a favor if they exceed your low expectations. Anyway, Bran 6.
Bran 6.
This chapter is set in Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
It's how would you describe what happens here? Hit me with your reaction to Bran 6 from A Game of Thrones.
Oh, we get to see Rob again.
We do.
So that's,
Rob comes
that's
back.
good. And this is kind of we talked about it in the weeks before, and also it's on the show, big seminal moment where we get Sansa's letter being
do.
like, Ned's a traitor, it's all over. You know,
And
then we also have, it's interesting that we have rumors and hearsay about what's going on in the South. So it's, we've seen in the book, or read in the book already, that word travels fast, because just in the last John chapter already we heard about all of these things.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it's that word travels fast. It's just that word travels, and he's choosing to jump ahead however many moments in time it takes to get there.
Oh, yeah. And now, so John knew everything, and now we were in Winterfell, and it's the same kind of, conjecture. We don't know what's going on. There's rumors, hearsay, all this kind of stuff.
And they only know what they hear.
And it's
Also,
chaos because it's their dad. So
yeah, of course. They're upset about it. And I like that when Rob receives the letter, he's taken in. He says, what is wrong with her? How could she be saying this? Which, again, kind of lends credence to what happens in Season 7 when Arya finds the letter and she is, again, angry.
Yeah.
So it makes some sense. By the way, Emma says she started reading the books. Hooray,
Hey,
Emma, read
Emma.
along with us. Catch
All
up to
right.
Bran 6 in
Read
Game of
quickly.
Thrones, and we can read along together.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No mention of Arya either, because you talk about
Yes.
Arya seeing it, we don't get a mention of Arya.
which Sansa didn't write about her at all, which is
Little
another just...
sour grapes.
You know what? They should have mentioned that in the show. Arya should have been like, why'd she mention me in this thing?
That's really why she's upset.
Possibly, but we didn't get that.
That's how Game of Thrones
Anyway,
ends.
Rob is an interesting case
Yeah.
because, again, we talked about this before. He's not a point of view character, but he's an important character. And the way Martin deals with him, he has this conceit, right? He talks about him as if he's like two people.
Yeah.
He talks about him as Rob the Lord. Like Bran has this bit where he asks if he can leave the castle to walk around the town, which is being crowded with all of Rob's bannermen, because basically Ned's in prison. So what Rob's done is called the lords to come here and amass an army so we can go free him. So the castle is crowded as hell, as is the town. And Rob tells him no. And Bran says he was using the voice of Rob the Lord when he said it. Bran knew that meant there was no appeal. And then later, Rob seemed half a stranger to Bran now, transformed, a lord in truth, though he had not yet seen his 16th name day. Even their father's bannermen seemed to sense it. So there's this idea that Rob, even though he's very young, he's been given this responsibility.
Yeah.
And he's kind of turned into a different person. He's turned into like a more authoritative person, like kind of turned from a kid into a man.
Yeah.
But then he comes in later to Bran, and he just talks about how scared he is of all the Lord's bannermen, about how creepy a dude Roose Bolton is, which Roose Bolton, quietly introduced here, who will eventually stab Rob at the Red Wedding.
Yep.
So there's this duality thing, where Rob is Rob the Lord on the one side, and then just Rob Stark, 15-year-old whippersnapper on the other. What do you think of that kind of portrayal, that tactic of portraying Rob?
We've seen it before, in different movies and different books.
Yeah.
It's the old trope of kid goes off to war and all of a sudden he's got to deal with, dead bodies and situations in which no young boy should ever be in, and he's got to grow up fast. Like you
grow
said,
up fast.
The boy becomes a man.
Is the cliche, yeah.
Yeah, that's the cliche.
Which, I mean, it's borne out, though.
Yeah, it is, but what I like about what George R. R. Martin did here is it is the duality. He doesn't just, when you have those stories, it goes one way or the other. It goes either you don't mature in the situation and you just stay a child, or you grow up too fast and now you're a grizzled 13-year-old who's seen things in life. You know, you've seen the 1,000-mile stare that he's got. So, but here Martin kind of goes back and forth where Robb's not really losing that, and it makes him an intriguing character from a leadership standpoint in that we just watched Ned, who is dug into one perspective, go down a certain path. We also have, to some extent, Daenerys, who's dug into one perspective. And you've got Robb here, who's kind of playing it on both sides. Even Jon, who's of kind of the same age here as Robb.
Yeah, same age as Robb.
And he's north of the wall, and he's more and more and more going to the wall, you know, to the Night's Watch and that kind of stuff.
The grizzled side. I mean, we had that thing last week where Jon had the line about I was so green back then.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he's not as grizzled as he thinks he is.
No.
And I think Robb's kind of having a similar thing, where he's having to put on the face of the kind of together leader. But inside, he's still 15. He's still, like, not really ready for this jelly, if you will. I gotta tell you, though, I'm not a huge fan of just, I don't know, like, I'll call it the conceit of the, like, dual Robb. Like, in the show, they kind of smooth it out. He's just one guy.
Yeah.
He's not, like, two people, but they go this direction here. And you interestingly mentioned Ned about digging in. I want to ask you, there's this bit in here where Bran and Maester Luwin basically tell Robb, okay, so I realize that Ned's been arrested. We got to go help him.
Yeah.
You don't have to go yourself. You can send a guy to manage your army. And Robb kind of responds with, my lord father would never send men off to die while he huddled like a craven behind the walls of Winterfell. So he's saying, I have to go myself. Now, to me, I look at that and I see maybe he's kind of hewing to Ned's way of thinking, you do the honorable, the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, we know Ned dies. We also know, going further ahead, that Robb dies eventually.
Hey.
Also because, and I feel like looking at this, it's part of the reason why. He's still sticking to that. He's still sticking to, I'm going to do things the right way. I'm not going to be a coward and hide Winterfell. I'm going to go and lead these guys myself.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been smarter to send someone in his place. What do you think of that?
It would have been smarter to send somebody to his place. But I like that comparison between Ned and kind of going down the same track, because I do feel like Robb is trying to become his own man, because that's, you know, what every boy tries to do. Is you grow up and try to become your own person. And yet he's still making the same mistakes that his father made, that are going to be fatal for his father, that are going to be fatal for him. So it's just, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree type of thing.
Not at all, no. I mean, he also invokes Ned directly here. Like, my lord father would not do this, so I'm not going to do this.
The honorable thing, by the book, the textbook thing to do. And it's, you know, not how you play the game. So,
but he'll find that out later. They all will. But it's Bran's chapter, Bran's perspective, and we get just some kind of nice details here inside his head. Bran's, I think this might be the first appearance of, he calls himself Bran the Broken, which is accurate. Yeah. So he's still this kid who, like, wants to go and be a knight, but he never can because he's, you know, doesn't have legs now. And I drew a comparison between Bran and Jon, in that Jon's stigmatized as a bastard, and now Bran, who can't use his legs in this world of mobility, and if you're a guy, what you're supposed to do is go be a warrior and a fighter, can never do that. So he's being kind of stigmatized too. And he overhears people talking about him, saying, Torrhen said likely the boy was broken inside as well as out, too craven to take his own life. So people are like whispering like, oh my God, they're going to use his legs. Oh, they're going to get over there. It's weird. So like Jon Snow, he's kind of being like pushed to the side of things.
Yeah.
And I feel like Martin does that with a lot of his characters. He gives you these characters who have something stigmatized or wrong with them. Like Jon's a bastard, so he's shut out. Bran's a cripple, so he's shut out.
Yeah.
Daenerys is literally an exiled princess over on the other side of the thing. Jaime loses a hand, so he can't fight anymore. Tyrion's a dwarf.
Tyrion, yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of the female characters are just by being female, you're kind of shut out of a lot of opportunities in this world. And then he follows them as they find ways around that. I think that's a strategy he uses a lot.
Yeah.
And this is how he's going to do it with Bran.
Yeah.
Bran the Broken.
And I do like that, too, like the deconstruction of your own characters. Like, that's what's always so fascinating about... So, you know, that's kind of what was interesting about the last Star Wars movie, the Last Jedi, which is you take the structure that has been established and you break it. So you've got this, you're used to the Star Wars movies going X, Y, and Z, but now we're going to go, actually, we're going to jump back to E. Let's throw in a 2. Let's like smear some purple on here. It's like, this is like, what's happening? This isn't supposed to be the way that things go. And I like that we've taken characters like Bran, who are on a trajectory, and kind of cut the trajectory off in the middle and be like, okay, so what's going to happen now? Because the character doesn't stop existing. You know, Bran doesn't cease to exist on the page because his legs cease to work. I mean, now it's an obstacle.
He gets more focus.
Yeah. So, and that's always what's so interesting to me, because it feels like, you know, the Daredevil thing where he's blind, so now he's the hearing.
He's super powerful.
Yeah, super powerful hearing. Or in like the Ben Affleck movie, he can see things like a bat or something like that. But like, that's what's so
Jennifer
interesting.
Garner's face in the rain.
Yeah, right. But that's what's so interesting, because you're unlocking deeper levels to these characters, and you're potentially putting them on different paths that are, in Bran's case, as we've seen, probably infinitely more interesting than it would have been if he would have just been another John or been another Rob.
Sure.
He's got his own thing now. It came at the price of his legs, but that's kind of, I like it when that happens to characters in stories like this, because it makes them more interesting.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I mean, what's more interesting? You'll notice that Martin doesn't have a Rob POV chapter, because Rob's, in a way, he's too ordinary.
Yeah.
He's the prodigal son who does the right thing and doesn't have a ton of conflict. Oh, he does have some. We talk about conflict. Whereas I think he much prefers characters who have that internal battle where Bran wants to be a knight, but he cannot because he has no legs. Jaime wants to be a great warrior. He cannot. He has no right hand. Arya wants to be a warrior. She's a girl. She's not allowed to be. Brienne, same exact thing with Brienne, actually. Yeah. And like a lot of his characters have that to them. John wants to be accepted. He can't. He's a bastard. They always have that block.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of character he likes to write. It's all underdogs from like A to Z in his books.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, I mean, maybe that's why we like the character so much. Who doesn't love an underdog?
I think so. And it also, this whole him breaking the structure thing is why I haven't got that far in the book, because I don't think we've read, I think it's not in this book that we're reading now, but the Red Wedding chapter, I will die on the hill to say that that's the chapter he should have been like, okay, Rob gets his chapter. And then he kills him because he's breaking the structure that he's established of, here, we're going inside these character heads. And you would have never seen it coming, even more so, I don't think, because it's like, here's Rob's chapter. And I don't know if we go inside of like the heads of characters that die in the chapter. But
well, I could spoil this for you. It's Catelyn is where we see the Red Wedding chapter from, who is the major character.
Yeah, because I was going to say, again, like that would be kind of interesting to go into a character's head, like we are here, and seeing all the perspectives and then done. But that's my Game of Thrones hot take.
I think if he just inserted one Rob chapter, it would have like tipped you off. Like now there's a Rob chapter. Why? It would have made me suspicious. Yeah. I don't think he cheats, because Catelyn does have chapters, and it's told from her perspective. Yeah. So, and she literally dies in the last. You'll see it when we get there.
It's not like the Sopranos thing where it just like stops mid chapter and then like the rest of the page is white.
It's pretty brutal actually. That I mean, maybe the most brutal chapter. She dies and we'll get there eventually. Anyway, let's wrap up with a talk of the magic parts of Bran stuff. Because of all the characters in this fantasy story, Bran is by far the most tapped into the fantasy aspects right now.
Fantastic.
Although some great comments here we're getting. Let's do it really quick. Yeah. Lauren says, Bran is so grown. He's younger than Rob and is dealing with new vulnerabilities, physical disabilities, learning from Maester Luwin and Rob to learn his new normal. I love Bran. He is acting more like a brave Ned Stark, not Rob. A interesting hot take on Bran versus Rob. And Emma promises to be in the next chapter by next week. That'd be great. Emma, we're looking forward to that. Read along with us. That'd be fun. Julie would like a Rob POV. I'm not so sure. I feel like I think it works.
Yeah.
Martin has said he would have liked to put in Rob POVs. I don't know. I feel like the chapters work like they do, but then again, it would have been interesting. And you are in favor of seeing a Rob POV?
I would enjoy seeing.
That's your hill. That's your hill. Gonna die on. I like
it.
You. Lauren says, Rob, it sometimes bothers me. I need to know more of what he's thinking, and I agree with that. Yeah, perspectives on Rob Stark. Anyway, Bran and magic. He's in the Godswood, praying to the gods, and just Martin is doing a fun thing where the wind rustles through the leaves, and it's like, is it just the wind? Is it the gods answering me? it's like it's having magic in the story, but not having magic in the story.
Yeah.
It's a fun kind of middle ground. What did you make of Bran's kind of encounter in the Godswood and discussion with Osha about the magic wilds beyond the wall with giants and wights and all that crap? Oh my.
Yeah, it was nice to kind of connect the last chapter in which John, it ends with literally a cliffhanger of him with this white he just fought and it's on fire or whatever. He's hoping it's going to die.
It's like, please burn, I think is the last line.
Yeah, and we had the discussion last week, even though we know what they are and how it turns out, that reading that perspective is, ooh, maybe he killed it. Maybe this is just a thing. What is this thing? And now some perspective, some explanation in saying, even if the fire killed that one, there's much, much more beyond the wall. Things far worse than that thing beyond the wall. And that kind of that world building that we've seen go on, the subtle world building, not forcing it onto anybody and being like, you know, here's the map, here is this, here are these things, and kind of this exposition that's forced. It's more natural. And also kind of with Osha, it gives you a little bit of, it invests you a little bit in her because it is,
sure.
She's almost like your guide on this. So, and as we know, she gets close with Bran throughout the show. I really liked how it was just the world building, the character building, and again, throwing in the magic and the fantastical nature of the world that they live in without being like wizards and goblins
without
and all this kind of stuff. It's
like
it
laser
exists.
beams, whatever, at your fingertips.
Yeah, it exists, and it's unknown, but it's unknown in the same way that like aliens are unknown to us. It's not like the Force in Star Wars or something like that. It's
No,
more,
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
And Osha's an interesting character and a good way to introduce us to that. I also have to call attention to this bit. I liked this bit. I thought the very elegantly written transition from kind of an inelegant situation. Hodor comes lumbering into the Godswood, naked as you please, which they actually kept in the show. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Hodor's big old penis swinging around?
Yep.
Totally happened. They were just, if it's in the book, we are putting in the show. I don't care how weird it is.
License, do it.
And it's HBO. It's not TV. And Osha looks at him and says, he must have giant's blood in him, which is, you know, all about his height and a fun little innuendo thing.
Yeah.
And then that segues so naturally into giants. Are there really giants beyond the wall? Which segues into, oh, there's all kinds of magic crap beyond the wall, which is great setup for Bran's journey. That's where he goes. And just, I'd watch Westworld over the weekend where the transitions are like so jumpy and kind of inelegant and like you're just forcing the next topic in there and I can see you doing it.
Yeah.
It was nice to just kind of read this natural progression to talk about something ridiculous, which is giants and zombies and stuff.
Yeah. Westworld's got its own pretension that, you know, it's the Nolan thing.
We're crapping on Westworld a lot in this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why, but
I do like Westworld though, and it's different, like for reasons that you stated. In that the Westworld, I feel like is more. There was a tweet that I saw over the weekend that was like, you know, one of those two people talking back and forth things, and it's like, you know, HBO's like, do you like Inception? Do you like Memento? Do you like Game of Thrones? Here's Westworld, and that's kind of what it is. So it's its own thing. Whereas I really dig how natural Game of Thrones makes unnatural things, like the magic, where it's this whole thing. So, or you could go really deep with the Westworld thing. I feel like Westworld's thing would be like, here's Hodor running around naked, and then it bears, you know, born out of that is Bran's journey, like, you know, some kind of like, we're talking about Giant's Wood, and it's born out and all this kind of stuff. But
they do a big flashback thing where it goes back, whatever. By the way, Lauren has a question for us. This is the first time Bran has seen Osha since the attack. Remember when they met Osha in the woods when she's like, we're going to cut you up. Why do you think Bran feels so safe around her? Is it faith and the weirwood tree? Is it because she's physically chained up? Or is it because Bran is a Stark and super brave? Any response?
I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest with you.
She is chained up.
That's clearly a nice barrier for his safety. But I think this is also kind of, we're talking about the development of Bran's character. I think losing his legs has given him new perspective in more ways than just his journey is different. I think it's kind of, and we saw this in the show, softened him up a little bit to other people coming into his life and the way that he sees other people.
I like that.
So, and I don't know if like he sees her in chains as like the same plight as him not having legs, chained by his own being crippled. But I feel like the same way that Tyrion is sympathetic in ways because he's an imp and he's had all these things happen to him in his life. I think Bran is starting to go down that path as well. And I also think he has the foresight to see he needs people. He needs to have allies, and he's not going to be a warrior. He's not going to have warrior buddies like
he'll
Ned.
need folk in his corner.
Yeah, he's never going to have a Robert like Ned has, who
Right.
he's been to battle with. He's going to have to find people who are on his side, because he's brought them over by himself. And I think this is maybe the start to that, which knowing what happens maybe is being
sure.
looking too
But
far
no,
ahead.
I like that a lot, that he's open to other people because of he's stigmatized and sort of isolated right now.
Yeah.
You know, Rob's dealing with her stuff. He has no time for him. His parents have gone away. Rickon the baby, who, by the way, has more characterization in the books than he ever really got in the show.
Didn't he
is a
show up
baby.
in one season and then he just showed up again to die?
He didn't have a single line in his final season. He didn't say one thing. He just showed up to die. I mean, it still worked. I mean, I still love that scene where he runs across and Ramsay shoots him, which, by the way, has not happened in the books. I don't know what's going to happen in the books. That's beyond it. Whole Battle of Bastards not happen in the books. It'll probably something like that will happen, but
beyond the books.
Beyond the wall, beyond the books. But yeah, we don't know what Rickon will do in the books. But he punched old Nan.
Yeah,
that's what it says. He'd refused to eat, cried and screamed for most of a night, even punched old Nan when she tried to sing him to sleep. The next day, he'd vanished. So Rickon, just watch out for him a little bit. He's still not huge in the books, but he does have more of a presence than this in the show.
Well, that's good.
The watchword with him is wild, they always throw around.
Wild.
He's just kind of a crazy, screaming, old lady punching sort of kid.
A wild little kid.
Before we sign off, I thought there were some good vocab words in this one I want to go over real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, which, I mean, and okay, some of these words I knew basically, but just confirmed. Okay, portcullis. You know what that is?
No.
Okay, portcullis is the graded gate that you kind of slide like up and down in a castle. You know, like they like lower the castle thing and then it like goes like that thing.
That's what that is.
Yes, the portcullis.
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 It's clunky. Lower the portcullis.
Lower the portcullis. And lich yard, not a real word. I think it's a Martin word, but it's graveyard.
Lich yard. That almost sounds German. Lich yard.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
That's kind of just fun. I mean, you know what it is. It's a made-up word, but it's just to make your story sound like it's set in a fantasy medieval period.
Lich yard.
Just take a word and just twist it a little bit. Lich yard is what a graveyard is now. Which, by the way, I just realized, for all the death on Game of Thrones, I don't think we ever see a graveyard.
No.
Weird. And finally, rough spun, which is what Osha is wearing. Rough spun is a garment made from roughly spun yarn or coarse material, like a potato sack outfit, a crap outfit, an outfit made of rough spun. Excellent words. And Lauren says, no Dany chapter. No, we're just going to do the one chapter this week because I was busy. But next week, we are going to do the next Daenerys chapter, and I believe it's a Catelyn chapter after that.
All right.
Any other thoughts on this chapter, Josh Hill?
No?
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. We are available on iTunes, Google Play if you want to listen to us on your way to and from work, at the gym, wherever. And we'll see you next week for more Game of Thrones news, Song of Ice and Fire, rumblings, and more A Song of Dan and Josh.
Yeah.
See you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. CST. Adios, guys.